Kufa vampire enters a house and clashes with a white-haired man who escapes. He discovers the man he came to talk to, Lord Elsnes, is dead. Kufa travels to the Angel family estate and meets Melida Angel, having been hired as her tutor. He accompanies Melida to an academy where she is mocked into a sparring match by Nerva Martillo. Nerva mocks her for not having mana manifested at a young age. Melida loses to Nerva and labels her an incompetent talented girl. Nerva reveals Melida dreams of joining Crest Legion, and that Melida's cousin Elise will one day join, as her new tutor is from the same guild. Melida runs away in shame. Kufa recalls being hired by Melida's grandfather, Lord Mordru, who believes Melida's mother, his deceased daughter Melinoa, had an affair with Elsnes, a commoner. If proven, Melida would not be the rightful heiress of House Angel and would never awaken mana. Kufa's guild, White Knight, was investigating until Elsnes was assassinated. Kufa sees no progression with Melida having mana and concludes she is illegitimate and must be assassinated. Kufa tracks her to a garden where she was chased by lycanthropes deliberately led into the dome by Mordru to pressure Melida's mana into awakening through combat. Melida is defeated but refuses to call for help. Kufa kills the lycanthropes, deciding he cannot ignore her strong spirit. He tells her there's a way to awaken her mana, but it may kill her. She agrees, so Kufa drinks a potion and feeds it to her via a kiss. She collapses but later wakes up with the ability to use mana. Kufa decides he must hide the fact she is illegitimate and keep what he did to awaken her mana a secret from everyone, or they will both be executed. After checking her body for possible side effects from the potion, Kufa reveals to Melida that receiving mana this way means she isn't a paladin, but a samurai like him, and has her keep her awakening a secret. They are later approached by Elise and her own private tutor, Roasty Prickett. Roasty tries to make a move on Kufa, but he rejects her advances, causing her to vow that Elise will defeat Melida at the Academy's end of semester tournament. Sometime later, as the tournament begins, Melida finds that her first match is against Nerva. While initially shocked that Melida can use mana now, Nerva manages to corner her. However, she refuses to give up and defeats Nerva by copying one of Kufa's techniques. Afterwards, Melida approaches her father with her victory, but he just tells her not to get cocky, while Nerva apologizes for bullying her. Melida and Kufa then watch Elise's match, who instantly defeats her opponents. Melida asks Kufa out to the upcoming school festival, but he declines. She takes up a dress in hopes of matching with Elise, but is disheartened to see Elise forced to wear something fancier on her family's orders. Ashamed, Elise runs away and Melida follows her when they are both kidnapped by lycanthropes. They are brought to an abandoned museum where their leader, a half-lycanthrope named William Jin, reveals he was ordered to transfer Elise's mana to Melida to make her a paladin. Melida flees with Elise, but are eventually cornered. Fortunately, they are saved by Kufa and Roasty, while Jin flees. Kufa gives chase, causing Jin to release a massive lycanthrope. While Kufa is able to defeat it, he is gravely injured in the process. However, he then reveals himself to actually be half vampire, the strongest type of lycanthrope, and proceeds to easily defeat Jin. However, Kufa lets Jin live on the condition that he falsely informs his superiors that he discovered traces of paladin mana in Melida, thereby giving them no incentive to attack her again. Back at the festival, Kufa asks Melida for a dance, and she asks him to stay by her side forever. Elsewhere, a mage called Black Media is tasked with investigating Kufa by his guild, who are concerned that he has gone rogue. In a flashback, Elise remembers Melida protecting her from a lycanthrope wolf while they were lost in the forest. Kufa and Roasty arrive at the academy where the principal announces the tournament between St. Friedswyd and the St. Dotrich Girls' Academy called the Luna Lumere Selection. Melida and Elise are picked to participate for their school, shocking the staff and students. Melida is able to pick 2 teammates, so she chooses Nerva, and Shenfa Zwidok join her team. Afterwards, they train and eventually take a break. While resting, Melida is surprised by Mule Moore, a student from St. Dotrich, who encourages her. That night, Kufa catches a maid from Elise's household trying to leave and tricks her into admitting she switched the names of the competitors competing in the tournament in an attempt to sabotage the relationship between Melida and Elise and eventually force them to fight. Melida seeks her approval instead and challenges the maid that if she wins the tournament, she will form a unit with Elise. Kufa meets Black Media after leaving Melida, who tells him to bring her a sample of Melida's blood for closer examination to prove his loyalty to the guild. Kufa refuses and the two begin to fight, but is immediately outmatched by Black Media and her clown class, which lets her mimic any classes and their abilities. Kufa appears to give in until Rosty joins him, causing Black Media to leave, but not before promising she won't be far away. Meanwhile, Elise suggests losing to Melida on purpose in the tournament as she doesn't believe Melida can defeat her if she truly fights and she wants to form a unit with her. 3 days before the Lumere selection tournament begins, Kufa and Rosty ask the academy principal to suspend the event until they find Black Media, but are refused. At lunch, Melida appears to eat alone when Rosty comes up to Elise and asks her about if something happened between them. Nerva and Shenfa sit next to Melida and begin to discuss a strategy to prepare for the tournament. The night before it starts, Kufa asks Melida about her issues with Elise, and she reveals Elise's decision to lose on purpose. Kufa suggests to Melida to talk to her alone and sort it out as siblings. At the beginning of the tournament, Nerva and Shenfa fends off attacks from Elise's teammates, allowing Melida to fight Elise alone. Meanwhile, Kufa finds a suspicious girl alone at the top of a school tower observing the battle below. Thinking she is Black Media, he attacks her, but is surprisingly fended off. He then asks her name and apologizes when she reveals herself as Mule Lumere. Melida and Elise fight each other back and forth until Melida catches Elise by surprise and knocks her out of the fight, before resigning herself from the tournament. Nerva then talks to them and Melida noticed Nerva was an imposter using different mana and reveals she's actually Black Media in disguise. Kufa and Rosty then confront Black Media and easily defeat her. Kufa transports her outside of the academy and gives her a letter to report to father on Melida's growth. Later, Cara Espada from Sabotage is revealed to have won the tournament. Melida confronts Elise about wanting to form a unit again, and she happily agrees. At night, Rosty approaches Kufa about a possible rumor among the students. Meanwhile, Melida, Elise, Mule, and Salacha Skixel sneak out and travel through a tunnel to meet the rest of their classmates in secret. Shenfa toasts a party to everyone from St. Friedeswid and St. Sabotage for a completed tournament. Afterwards, while everyone cheerfully enjoys the party, Mule tells them an old story about a married couple and how it soon soured to the point where the husband killed his wife and cut out her heart. Salacha then chimes in and says that the woman, now known as the Grey Witch, still wanders the earth and cuts the hearts out of young girls, scaring both Elise and Melida. Suddenly, the lights go out and a shadow of a woman with red mana stands in the doorway. Melida, thinking it is the girl from the story, asks if the shadow is the Grey Witch, only for the woman to smirk. Terrified, Melida, Elise, Mule, and Salacha flee from the room as the witch begins to wreak havoc. They head back through the tunnel until they come across unknown sticky, pink blobs of goo that cover them from head to toe. They continue to run until they are blocked at the exit by the witch. They decide to fight their way out, but are easily defeated and turn to run away. They manage to find their way out and see Kufa out on watch duty, but are horrified to see his heart having been stabbed out. Kufa brings them back to the dorm and explains how he found out about the secret party from Rosty and decided to play along with her scheme of portraying the Grey Witch. He lectures the girls for breaking curfew and to go back to their rooms, but they end up too exhausted from the ordeal and share a bed for the night. Melida awakens from a nightmare to Kufa telling her to get ready for a school field trip. As they got to the academy, Rosty runs up and suddenly proposes to Kufa to take her as his fiancée in order to trick her father, Marquis Blossom Prickett, who has already hand-picked someone for her. Kufa agrees, much to Melida's chagrin. Once Blossom arrives, he brings up the idea to perform the wedding ceremony in Garda, the destination of the field trip in Rosty's hometown, but Rosty says she's happy with her current fiancé. Blossom studies Kufa closely and is reminded of a serial killer from Rosty's youth who is supposedly dead, though Rosty doesn't remember it. Concerned, Melida ditches class and runs to ask Kufa about this, but runs into a reformed black media, now known as Lack. Melida begins hearing a voice in her head, but they're interrupted by a scream from down the hall and come across an unconscious student. Blossom uses a potion to determine that the perpetrator is a male that uses blue-colored mana, causing many to suspect Kufa. Later, the students arrive in Shang, Garda, where Melida hears more voices and wanders off towards some suspicious plants. Blossom stops her and explains that the area is home to many dangerous mystery spots. Someone then informs Blossom about a sick resident, who then has to be killed in order to stop the illness. Rosty brings Kufa to a church where she apologizes for asking him to be her fiancé, but thanks him for going along with the idea. As Kufa returns to Melida's dorm, she is upset for him being so late and demands something in return. Kufa takes her out and shows her a mystery spot he found a long time ago. They arrive at a magnetic cave where they're able to float around the cavern, much to Melida's joy. That night, Melida has another nightmare with the strange voice, and is woken up by Elise, who tells her of another attack by the blue mana perpetrator and that Kufa is nowhere to be found. Melida and Elise arrive at the scene to find all of Blossom's adopted children drained of life energy. Blossom suspects Kufa committed the crime and told the town's citizens to find him. Melida runs off in search of Kufa, but Lack stops her and agrees to help solve the mystery. In order to maintain a low profile, Lack disguises herself as a student, and the duo wander around town asking the citizens for any knowledge regarding the mystery spots. After cunningly getting information from a woman in a flower shop, Melida and Lack find the Crooked House, an abandoned house which is rumored to be the most dangerous mystery spot. They discover a pathway that leads underground and follows it, leading them to a dungeon that's been filled with the corpses of the townspeople who were killed for harboring the strange sickness. As Lack begins to suspect Blossom of experimenting on the townsfolk, Melida hears the voice in her head and runs off, suspecting another incident is about to occur. She rushes to the church and finds Elise unconscious and Rosty dead. The citizens head out to find Kufa while Blossom takes Rosty's body himself. As Melida lays Elise down to rest, Shenfer runs in and tells Melida that Blossom has been attacked and Rosty's body taken, as well as that the residents are coming for Melida due to her connection to Kufa. She escapes and runs to the mystery spot where Blossom warned about the plants and broke through a wall leading into a tunnel. She follows it and comes across an underground library. She picks up the files and reads them, discovering how Blossom has been tampering with lycanthropes and humans with the night gene factor. She then hears the same voice in her head, and suddenly Rosty appears with white hair and blue mana. The voice then orders Rosty to attack, but Kufa appears and stops her. As the two clashes, Kufa transforms into his vampire form, causing Rosty to flee and Melida to gaze at him in horror. Melida attempts to approach Kufa, but he pins her down and says he will erase her memories of him until the day they met. Melida hugs and then kisses Kufa after explaining that she alone will be on his side. Kufa then reveals that he is half lycanthrope to Melida and enters a flashback showing Marquis Blossom holding Kufa's body and speaking with an enormous spider-like lycanthrope named Naka about the night gene factor and how they failed to control it. Kufa awakens and walks over to a dying Rosty and turns her into a vampire to save her life. Father arrives to fight off the lycanthrope, ending with young Kufa blinding the spider and Father finishing it off. Kufa then freezes young Rosty's memories and explains to Father that he wants her to be happy without the burden of knowing what she is, before joining the White Knight Guild. In the present, Kufa asks Melida to never say anything about what she just heard before explaining that Naka has somehow returned and teamed up with Blossom to get Rosty a fiancé to increase the number of mana users in Shang Garda. Kufa then says that he already has a plan and requires some assistance. Melida then barges into the chapel where Rosty is getting married, and then explains that her love for Kufa is stronger than Rosty's, causing the latter to snap out of her daze. The two then get into a fight, causing Naka to reveal himself as the perpetrator of all the attacks thus far. Naka escapes with Rosty giving chase, who remembers everything about her past. Kufa arrives and both he and Rosti change into vampire form to engage in combat with Naka. With the help of the Academy students, they're able to defeat Naka once and for all. As Rosti happily remembers her past, Kufa freezes her memories again due to the pact he made with the guild. Kufa finds Blossom in a dark room with his wife Carmilla pinned to a wall, who is in the process of becoming a lycanthrope. To repay his debt to Blossom for raising him, Kufa gives Carmilla a drug to turn her back into a human. As the students return home, Blossom is revealed to have turned himself in, while Melida welcomes Elise back and teases Rosti about her new relationship with Kufa. At school, Melida is excelling her grades. After class ended, Nerva talks to her about not everyone at the academy believes they've accepted and forgot Melida's nickname. Incompetent, talented girl. The principal announced a test, Vibria Goat, that takes place in a library. Meanwhile, Salacha's brother, Serge Skixel, brings up the concern about proving that Melida isn't from House Angel, and Mule comes up with an idea to test this theory to the other nobles. While Salacha has doubts, Melida and Kufa arrive to school, as someone claims that he is Melida's father started a rumor about Kufa in front of everyone and left. Afterwards, Melida talks to Kufa about that man making lies about her. On the day of the test, the students arrived to the Labyrinth library. Kufa then received a message from Felgus Angel, and he wishes to take Melida away and end Kufa's services working for House Angel. But Kufa told Felgus to reconsider the decision for 1 year. Then a maid notified Felgus about a letter, and he noticed it was from Grimfus. Melida and Elise explored the labyrinth and ghosts appears. They defeated the ghosts as more shows up. Then Salacha and Mule appears in front of them. Kufa reassures Rosti that he will deal with Guild Grimface targeting the students and tells her to stay behind to protect the other students. Mule explains to Melida and Elise about them taking the exam too and offers for them to join as a team. Afterwards, the group approaches a disheveled bookshelf that needs to be rearranged in the correct order. When they reach down to pick up a book, small imps appear as their foes. Melida defeats them and Mule tells Elise and Salacha to place the books back to the correct bookshelf. After the books are in place, they are given special books that indicate they passed the exam. But Salacha suddenly takes Melida's book away. Meanwhile, the headmistress attempts to regroup with the other students, but is attacked by Grimfus members and is injured. Kufa appears and defeats the enemies while one of the guild executives summons more ghosts. Mule then takes the book from Salacha, reads out loud that Melida's class is samurai, before attempting to escape the labyrinth. As Kufa begins to become surrounded by ghosts, Jin appears and defeats the remaining enemies, before revealing that Grimfus isn't after Melida, but the entire student body of the academy. Father suddenly appears, recruiting Jin to his services in exchange for the formula to turn lycanthropes back to humans. Father then charges Kufa with finding the missing girls and bring them back safely. Meanwhile, Melida catches Mule and demands an explanation, but is met with a spell and is surrounded by bright light. Melida awakens in a courtroom akin to the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, which is run by Mule, Serge Skixel, and the other noble families of Flandore as the jury. Serge accuses Melida of deceiving everyone by being an illegitimate child of the Angel family, causing the jury to stir and throw insults at her. She retorts that she is the heir of the Angel family and will prove it by getting strong enough to join the Crest Legion. Serge accepts the challenge and invites Melida to fight Salacha to prove her worth. After initially getting cornered by Salacha's Dragoon class, Melida uses Kufa's training and feints, falling off balance to catch Salacha off guard, defeating her.
No more.
The jury begins to doubt their accusations and worry about the consequences of their actions, until Serge suddenly reveals a magical pen that transforms into a massive ink-like dragon. As the girls evacuate the nobles, Serge is revealed to be a member of Guild Grimfus in disguise, who also claimed to be Melida's biological father. As he attacks the girls, Kufa appears and fends off the attack, allowing he and Melida to work together in perfect sync to defeat the masked man.
What's a bastard like you got? Brilliant
The man wakes up in the real world beside Surge, who laments their foiled plans and kills the man for failing. A few days later, the culprit was revealed to be a disgraced member of the Crest Legion. Felgus, Melida's father, arrives soon after to investigate the current status of the Legion, and later acknowledges Melida as his daughter. Sometime later, Melida meets with Kufa and promises to be able to protect him someday, reinforcing his decision to be with her. This is the end of my video, so please watching all of my anime recap series. Thanks for watching.